Benjamin Impossible. Chapter 35. One More Thing. The next few weeks were busy ones. Once Charlie had been freed from his prison jar, it didn't take long for the baby genius to hack into the submarine's computer systems. The child quickly disabled Glockenspiel's robotic minions. After some debate, they kept a few robots functional as they needed them to run the ship's life support systems and to monitor the nuclear reactor. Using an X-ray scanner found in the robotics shop, the boys diagnosed and printed a 3D cast for Lemon-Time's broken ankle. Benjamin was still a little paranoid about the robotic army, so he removed the batteries from the disabled robots. He also unplugged the head-mounted laser blasters as well. The last thing they needed was for the laser-wielding robots to turn on them and mutiny. It didn't help Benjamin's nerves to know that the robotic octopus had gone missing. Despite a thorough search, they couldn't find it anywhere on the ship. Some of the Glockenbrain's spheres were missing as well. They did find the hyperhelium generator. Benjamin's alarm clock was still glued to the bottom. Charlie confirmed that the generator still worked, though it smelled a little bit like pee. "We're in luck," Charlie announced after looking through the space debris they had brought back on board. "I found Noah's memory module. It's pretty trashed, but I bet I can pull out his programming and sync it with his backup drive. If you can build another body, I can reinstall him." Communication with Earth turned out to be a challenge. Benjamin found the video equipment that Glockenspiel had used to transmit his demands to Earth. Unfortunately, all the communication satellites had been destroyed by the marble minefield. "I don't get it," Benjamin growled in disgust, poking through the transmitter equipment. "How was Glockenspiel planning on communicating with Earth? Without a satellite system, there's no way to integrate with land-based cable." Lemon-Time scratched his head. Didn't he say he had his own satellites? Glockenspiel threatened to laser everyone's hair off if they didn't shave themselves bald. Perhaps he was going to use his own satellites to transmit his demands. Benjamin shook his head. "There aren't any other satellites. I think he was just making that stuff up to scare everyone. He was obsessed with turning people into Glockenbrain's cyborgs. Maybe it's easier to Glockenscan your brain with your hair shaved." "Maybe Glockenspiel wasn't planning to contact Earth at all," Lemon-Time commented as he watched the boy tinker with the submarine's wiring. Benjamin looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Maybe his televised demands were a ruse and the evil Dr. Glockenspiel was planning to bombard the planet anyway. He wanted to rule the world. Maybe he planned on destroying civilization with meteor impacts and building his own cybernetic society from the ruins. If so, we saved a lot of lives by stopping him." "Perhaps," Benjamin said, unconvinced. With satellite communication out, Benjamin fell back to radio broadcast. It was easy for the boy to wire up a radio transmitter and pump a radio signal down to the planet. Unfortunately, nobody important seemed to be listening back on Earth. He reached several amateur ham radio operators and some kooky organization looking for aliens, but nobody believed his story. One communication officer in Baltimore threatened to arrest him if he continued to make up stories on official radio frequencies. Eventually, Benjamin had to go old school. He used Lemon-Time's old laser idea and created a laser array to shoot a beam of light down to Earth. He pulled the blasters out of a number of the deactivated robots and mounted them in parallel to the outside of the ship. Charlie created a program to blink Morse code messages down to the planet, and Benjamin built a telescopic receiver to detect any return messages. They aimed the laser beacon toward the last known location of the Red Zeppelin and hoped their parents were watching the night sky. A few days later, they received a reply. His parents had seen his message at night from the deck of the Red Zeppelin, but they had been unable to answer immediately. Papa Impossible was a brilliant physicist, and Mama Impossible was the world's leading biologist, but neither one was great at building machines. Papa Impossible had finally convinced Admiral Sandbar that they were receiving coded messages from space. This got the Navy involved, and the Navy's communications scientists built a modified laser transmitter to communicate with the submarine via tight-beam laser pulses. "Hi, Mom," Benjamin said, waving at the camera. Charlie had hooked up a video feed so they could teleconference with their parents via the laser link. "Oh, Benjamin!" Mama Impossible cried. "I'm so happy to see you. I thought that this might be a cruel trick of Dr. Glockenspiel." "Nope," Benjamin said with a grin. Lemonhead and I beat up that crazy robot man and threw his carcass out into space. Did you know he was planning on copying our brains and turning us into cyborgs? Mama Impossible shook her head. That's not possible, dear. The human brain contains a complex network of ganglion cells, dendritic connections, and hormonal signals. You can't copy a brain. I know, Mom, but Glockenspiel found a way to copy the human mind onto a computer chip. Benjamin pointed the camera toward the rack of Glockenbrains on the wall. See those round balls? Those are silicon copies of scientists' brains that he copied. When we land, you can figure out what to do with them. Mama Impossible shook her head. My word, Benjamin, most kids bring home unwanted pets. Turtles, snakes, and bugs are the usual suspects. Instead, you're bringing home a collection of computer brains? The boy shrugged. Charlie, who had been fiddling with the communication program, floated into view of the camera and waved. Charlie, Mama Impossible cried out with delight. Are you okay? I haven't seen you in weeks. Yes, Mother, the baby said seriously. My hair is growing back from when Glockenspiel shaved it. Also, this mustache marker seems to be wearing off my upper lip. Did he hurt you, baby? Charlie shook his head. No, Mother. I had it under control the entire time. Dr. Glockenspiel had a classic case of sociopathic megalomania. He was quite easy to manipulate. If Benjamin hadn't been able to defeat him, I had several backup plans to thwart the evil doctor. Yeah, right, Benjamin grumbled. Well, you stay safe up there, my little baby munchkin. When are you two coming home? Benjamin rubbed his temples. Well, that's the thing, Mom. This submarine has enough hyperhelium and rocket fuel to return to Earth. I'm just afraid to land this sucker until I have clearance from the military. His mother frowned. Why do you need the military's permission? I'm giving you permission right now. You get your little brother home. Benjamin laughed. It's not that, Mom. I'm worried about landing with everyone so jumpy right now. The last thing we need is to be hit by a bunch of missiles when we drop out of orbit. Oh, Mama Impossible said, thinking about this. That wouldn't be good at all. They continued to communicate with their parents over the next few days. Several military scientists questioned them, and they even got to speak to the president. Admiral Sandbar, looking annoyed, demanded his submarine back immediately. In response, Benjamin transmitted the video footage of Lemontime farting through space. It took several days, but eventually the submarine was cleared for landing, and everyone promised not to blast it down. It looks like we're going to make it, kids, Lemontime said when he heard the good news. They were all sitting in the new command center in the front of the submarine. Charlie had rigged computer terminals in that room so he could control the entire submarine from a central location. With the glass window broken, they had to leave the blast doors closed. Benjamin had found the room stuffy, so he had rescued the largest shard of rhino glass they could find and welded it into the blast door so they could still watch Earth spinning in the distance. Benjamin leaned back in a chair and grinned. Did you ever doubt me, Captain? Of course I doubted you, Lemontime said, floating over to look out the window. This whole adventure has been ridiculous. Don't sweat it, Lemon Baby. It's almost over. All you need is a hot shower and a tall glass of lemonade, and you'll feel right as rain. The captain looked around the control room. I'm looking forward to getting back to land, that's for sure. This weightlessness is starting to get to me. Benjamin and Charlie locked eyes and nodded. You know, Captain, Benjamin said, we've already defeated the bad guy, and Charlie and I aren't really in a hurry to get back. Lemontime looked suspicious. Benjamin, what are you saying? Charlie grinned, munching on a cookie. NASA had to cancel their last space launch, Mr. Lemontime. Now that Glockenspiel has destroyed the Kennedy Space Center, the entire NASA exploration program is in danger of being shut down. So what? Benjamin grinned. Well, NASA may be out of space rockets, but we have our own spaceship right now. Charlie and I were thinking of flying this submarine to the moon and taking a moon hike. Want to come along? Lemontime groaned. Do I have a choice? No, not really. We've already set course. Come on, it will be awesome. Lemontime dropped his head in defeat. Benjamin clapped his hands. Cheer up, Lemonhead. We are about to make history. This will be the largest spaceship to ever land on the moon. I'll be the youngest child to have ever visited the moon, Charlie cheered. Yes, Benjamin agreed, and I'll be the first kid to ever dance the moonwalk on the actual moon. His eyes lit up at the possibilities. Why stop there? I could synchronize some of Glockenspiel's robots and reenact Michael Jackson dance videos on the lunar surface. Lemon-Time looked doubtful. I suppose I could be the first person to play backgammon on the moon? That's the spirit, Captain. That's the kind of initiative I like to hear from a sidekick. I am not a sidekick. Then perhaps we could just be friends, Captain Lemon-Time? Benjamin said, offering his hand with a peculiar expression on his face. Taken aback by the gesture, Lemon-Time hesitated for a moment, then reached forward and shook hands with the remarkable young man. Despite Benjamin Impossible's accomplishments, the captain realized the boy had never had a real friend before. He almost felt sorry for the child. Almost. Charlie jumped up with joy, spinning uncontrollably in the free fall of space. We'll film the moon and send the videos back to Earth. We'll take everyone's mind off that awful glockenspiel. This is the first step to establishing a permanent base on the moon. Benjamin nodded. With our hyperhelium reserves, we can bring back so many moon rocks that every kid on Earth can have one of their very own. Lemon-Time shook his head. You two are something, you know that? Benjamin grinned. That is because we are impossible. Charlie shook his head. Technically, we are impossibles. Benjamin dived through the air, grabbed his brother, and hugged him. Come over here, you little knucklehead. I've missed you. You have reached the end of Benjamin Impossible, the helium heist. But the story isn't over yet. The second book, The Kraken's Curse, is being written now and will come out soon. Click the link below to subscribe to the Benjamin Impossible email newsletter on the author's website to hear when the next installment arrives. Thank you very much for listening.